Alexa, turn on meditation music.
Here's meditation.
Alexa, set your volume to 4. Good morning, Dadaveda. How are you? Good morning, Teresa. You're up bright and early. Nice to see you. Now, I only have about an hour today because we need to go out of town to a memorial service, so I better just get started. Folks can always catch anything they miss on YouTube. I'm hoping we can make it all the way through chapter 8 today, and then we'll just have chapter 9 for tomorrow, for next week. But let's see how it goes. Chapter 8, the Balkans. Now that we had a big farm in Poland, it was possible to organize programs and invite people to enjoy the beautiful environment. We received the title to the farm at the end of the summer of 1990, so it was too late to hold any programs. However, I started making plans for the following summer. While traveling to India, I had met acharyas who were working in Australia. They told me about the Ananda Mela, a festival that was held every year at their main master unit, Ananda Pali. The Ananda Mela combined workshops on Ananda Marga with general workshops on ecology, spirituality, and alternative lifestyles, along with daily sessions of chanting, kirtan, and meditation. In addition, I had just seen the Ecotopia Festival in Hungary. I wanted to do something similar in Poland, so in the spring of 1991, I announced that we would be holding a neo-humanist ecology festival at our master unit, which had been given the name Ananda Puta Bhumi by Baba. One monk in India told me that when Baba gave the name to the master unit, he said, Poland Puta Bhumi. Puta means purified, and Bhumi means land. The festival was scheduled for July 14th to 18th, 1991. We designed some nice posters with a rustic logo that included a windmill and an apple. Some young volunteers put these posters up in several Polish cities, and we soon got letters from people who said that they were coming to the festival. Communism had just fallen, and people were interested in all kinds of new activities. It was not hard to generate interest in the festival. I organized some workshops following the formula of the Ananda Mela of Australia, combining Ananda Marga-themed classes and workshops with activities based on ecological themes. These included workshops on organic farming, beekeeping, and natural medicine. Getting people to come was not a problem, and providing an interesting program was also not a problem. The biggest challenge was the logistics of providing accommodations and facilities for everyone. Although the farm had a beautiful environment, the buildings were not very good. There was an old barn and an old farmhouse. I remember immediately after purchasing the property, I invited one senior Margi from Warsaw to come and visit. When he saw the condition of the farmhouse, he said, "It's very tantric." That's an Ananda Marga euphemism for very uncomfortable or rough. A physical challenge, just as the tantric path is all about challenge. We only had one bathroom, an old kitchen, and not much indoor space in the farmhouse. The festival was supposed to be a camping festival, so we planned to dig some outhouse toilets. For the problem of the kitchen, we turned to the Soviet army, which was getting ready to leave Poland. While some shady characters in Eastern Europe were at this moment illegally purchasing rockets and other munitions from the retreating Soviet forces, all we wanted were some tents, some folding chairs, and a portable army stove. We were able to get these items at a cheap price. We were also able to rent some big tents from a nearby fire department, so we were almost ready to hold the festival. Hi, December. Good morning. I say almost ready because we never really were able to solve the problem of how so many people would bathe, nor were we able to construct proper toilets prior to the beginning of the festival, but we went ahead anyway. More than 100 people were inspired by our posters and advertisements and came to the farm with their backpacks and tents. The weather was also uncooperative, with rain on and off throughout the festival. Despite all the problems, however, it proved to be a successful program. People enjoyed it, the local media loved writing newspaper articles and doing reportages for television and radio, and we felt that we had made some steps in utilizing the farm for the benefit of a wider community. The festival was reprised the next year and every year since then, right up until today. Gradually, we were able to improve the facilities. We constructed a pond which held a lot of water, and this water was piped to a bathhouse that we constructed out of cinder blocks. The bathhouse had showers and toilets. In subsequent years, the farmhouse was renovated and the barn was converted into a large meeting hall. We also purchased the adjacent farm, which brought our total up to 46 hectares, 114 acres. Donna, do you still attend this every year? When's the last time you were there? Just curious. December sending love. Transferred to Cairo sector. I had returned to Europe from Japan in 1984 and continued working in various countries through 1998. 2005 was the last time. Oh, wow. However, in the first week of June 1998, I was included in a long list of transfers that were made within Ananda Marga. It is a general principle in Ananda Marga that its monks and nuns should periodically be transferred to new places. This system has its advantages and disadvantages, both for the individual monks and nuns and for the organization itself. The main advantage for a monk or nun is that periodic transfers create dynamism and prevent people from falling into a monotonous rut. Also, visiting, living, and working in new places are mind-expanding experiences. At the time of the summer, May to June, meeting in Ananda Nagar, many monks and nuns who had been working in the same place for extended periods were given assignments in new locations. Transfer the laundry from the washer to the dryer. Since I had been in Berlin sector, Europe, for 14 years, my name was on the list of transfers. My new post was the Public Relations Secretary for Cairo sector. Cairo sector is the Ananda Marga designation for the countries of the...
It's not done.
It's not done yet? Okay, I'll be listening for it. We're on a bit of a time crunch, sorry guys. At the time of the summer, May to June meeting in Ananda Nagar, many monks and nuns who had been working in the same place for extended periods were given assignments in new locations. Since I had been in Berlin sector, Europe, for 14 years, my name was on the list of transfers. My new post was the Public Relations Secretary for Cairo sector. Cairo sector is the Ananda Marga designation for the countries of the Middle East, most of North Africa, and the Balkans, including Greece, Albania, and the countries of the former Yugoslavia.
Hold him for a minute.
Come here, Jasper. Come say hi. Hi, everybody. I'm Jasper Duna. It's okay. Nope, you're not going to run out the door. No, you're not. Love you. A posting in Cairo sector was sometimes viewed as a punishment posting because at first it was very difficult to propagate Ananda Marga in the Islamic countries of the Middle East, and thus we didn't have many centers, members, or resources in that sector. Later, as the world and the Middle East in particular began to change, we did find ways to spread our ideas and practices here. I don't really know whether monks and nuns were actually sent to Cairo sector deliberately to face hardship due to their misdeeds or not, but it was certainly a widespread belief in some circles. That's why, when I called up a Margi in Norway and told him that I had been transferred to Cairo sector, he immediately exclaimed, "Dada, what did you do?" There was also a perception that once you got to Cairo sector... Oh, sorry, hold on. having some issues.
I'm really sorry. I just need the keys.
Got your keys?
Yeah, I'm really sorry.
This is just what happens when you wait till the last minute to do everything. We're trying to get one last load of laundry done before we go. Carrie's out the door now going to get her eyebrows done because she just can't handle her big bushy eyebrows anymore. And, you know, we're going to a big celebration of life today for our friend who passed away a couple of weeks ago. So, thank you for your patience. And here comes Jasper. Hi, Jasper. Hi. 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 All right. Where were we? That's why when I called up a Margie in Norway and told him that I had been transferred to Cairo sector, he immediately exclaimed, "Dada, what did you do?" There was also a perception that once you got to Cairo sector, there would be nothing much you could do there. When I called another Margie to tell him about my transfer, he said, "But Dada, what will you do there?" I would soon find out. I packed my belongings in a large canvas duffel bag, got on an airplane, and flew to Athens, where our sectorial headquarters was located. I was received at the airport by one of the Dadas who took me by bus to an apartment that served as both our administrative headquarters and as a meditation center. I met with the sectorial secretary, and we made a plan for my first few weeks in the sector. I was to make a visit to the main places where we had activities and then decide where I would settle down. The places that I visited in this first tour of the sector were Cyprus, Israel, Malta, and Croatia. In the late 1990s, it was possible to take a ferry boat from Athens to Cyprus and then go on to Israel, so I bought a ticket and boarded the ferry to Cyprus. The ferry reached a port on the south side of the island, and from there I took a shared taxi to the capital, Nicosia, where there was an Ananda Marga Center. It was late August and Cyprus was baking in the summer heat. I looked out of the taxi windows and saw a landscape that looked like it belonged on the moon. In the cooler months, that same landscape blooms with vegetation, but when I traveled through it, it looked bleak. When we finally reached the Nicosia area, the taxi took me to the Ananda Marga Center. Though it was a house in a residential area, it did not have very good insulation, especially the roof, which was sheet metal, and it was really hot inside. I wondered whether it was like this in all the Cypriot houses. I met the Margies, visited a piece of land outside of Nicosia that was being developed as a master unit, and generally enjoyed my first look at Cyprus. After my brief stay in Cyprus, it was time to catch the ferry to Israel. Since I grew up in a Jewish family, I was keenly interested in seeing Israel. I arrived in the port city of Haifa, and after being greeted by a number of security people, I passed through immigration and took a train to Tel Aviv. There was an Ananda Marga office in Ramat Gan, an area directly adjacent to Tel Aviv proper. Israel reminded me of Western Europe with its apartment buildings, parks, and pedestrian shopping areas. There were Margis in Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, and also in Haifa, and periodically they came together for retreats. I visited Israel a few times in the next 2 years, attending retreats and visiting a green kibbutz through a contact from New Renaissance magazine. I also got a chance to visit Jerusalem and went to the holy sites of the city. In September of 1998, I continued my initial tour of the sector with the Mediterranean island nation of Malta. There were a lot of Margis in Malta, and they were high-spirited. During the kirtan, I couldn't hear my guitar because the singing and drumming was so loud. I concluded the tour with a visit to Croatia. Croatia had been part of Yugoslavia but broke away in a bloody war in 1992. It is a Catholic country, as is Malta, and Ananda Marga seems to do well in Catholic countries. Once again, I found a lot of Margis here, just as I had in Malta and a decade before in Poland. After the tour, I went back to our office in Athens, and after some consultation with the sectorial secretary, I decided to make my initial base in Cyprus. I settled in our house there, which during the cooler weather was actually not so bad, and remained till the early part of 1999. We held yoga classes at our center and even had a small seminar during the sunny days of March. And here are the dadas of Cairo sector. If you're just joining me, you're listening to Chapter 8 of Dada Veda's book, memoir, spiritual memoir, From Brooklyn to Benares and Back. "9 years in Albania. I was getting ready to settle for a while in Cyprus when international events intruded. In April 1999, the long-festering ethnic problems in the Serbian province of Kosovo exploded. This province was inhabited by a majority population of ethnic Albanians practicing Islam, but it was also an area that was historically important for the Serbs, who were Orthodox Christians. When hostilities between the two ethnic groups erupted, the Serbs forced 600,000 ethnic Albanians to flee the province, and they sought refuge in neighboring Albania. This created a humanitarian problem for Albania, a small and impoverished country. As the armies of NATO started bombing Yugoslavia, hoping to bring about a military solution to the problem, hundreds of non-governmental relief organizations poured into Albania, trying to provide relief assistance to the refugees. From our Athens headquarters, we organized a branch of our Ananda Marga Universal Relief Team and sent it to Tirana to help with the relief effort. In a very short time, our team was able to set up 2 offices and a warehouse, and soon we were feeding thousands of refugees each day. We already had monks, nuns, and volunteers working there when I was asked to join the team." Hi, Julie, welcome. "I traveled from Athens to Tirana, the capital of Albania, by bus, a long and uncomfortable journey. If my bus ride in Nepal in 1981 was the bus ride from hell, then this was the sequel. The streets of Tirana were clogged with traffic, including the SUVs and other vehicles of the various relief agencies. I participated in the relief activities of our team for a few weeks and enjoyed it. We even played basketball with some of the refugees and found them to be congenial people. However, as we got to know them better, we realized that the region was not going to experience real peace for a long time to come. One of them told me what he wanted to do when he returned to Kosovo. 'We've got to kill the gypsies and the Serbs,' he said. According to him, the Roma people, gypsies in Kosovo, had allied themselves with the Serbs in the drive to oust the ethnic Albanians from the province, and that was how he expressed his bitterness." Thank you, Julie. In the middle of May, everything changed abruptly. The NATO bombing campaign succeeded in driving the Serbian army out of Kosovo, and the thousands of refugees in Albania returned to their homes almost as fast as they had fled. That was good news for Albania, but it was a bit disorienting for our relief workers. We had 2 offices, a warehouse filled with relief materials, and various staff members, but no clear idea of what we were going to do next. Eventually, we sent some monks and nuns back to Athens and other parts of our sector, but I stayed on in Tirana to manage our office. There was one main Margi in Tirana and one newcomer who quickly became a staunch practitioner of meditation and an active member of our organization. They helped me to organize some interesting post-refugee crisis activities in Albania, and these activities kept me busy for the next 9 years. One of the new Margis was a former finance minister who had a good grasp of the problems the country was facing. He pointed me to Bathori, a district just outside the capital. According to him, thousands of residents of Albania's northern provinces had fled to the Tirana area in 1992, following the collapse of state-run industries in the upheaval that ended 45 years of communist rule. Some of these internal refugees settled in a vast agricultural tract that became the informal village of Bathori. There were few government services in the area, and some of the residents lived in converted cattle sheds. Bathori is a ticking time bomb, he said, emphasizing that the area was in need of social service. I wasn't really sure what I could do to help the people of this community, but I was willing to look into the problem. Fortunately, I was not alone. Another monk was working with me, and we had good contacts in the other non-governmental relief organizations. In fact, I met an old friend in Albania, the Dutch national whom I had met during the Ecology Festival in Hungary, the same man who helped me with a loan for the master unit in Poland in 1990. He was in Albania with his organization Balkan Sunflowers, and I became friends and partners with his team. Together with the Balkan Sunflowers, we sent an exploratory team to Benares, which was only a short bus ride from Tirana. Members of the Balkan Sunflowers decided to start an after-school program for children. At the time, I didn't see how I could contribute to that effort, but events were to prove me wrong. More promising was the interest that a few of the Balkan Sunflowers showed in starting a microcredit program for Benares. Microcredit is the term given to small loans for people who want to start or expand business enterprises that will help them to become economically self-sufficient. They were made famous by Muhammad Yunus, a Bangladeshi professor who discovered that by giving loans as small as $27, he could help struggling villagers buy hens and start an egg production business. Yunus went on to found the Grameen Bank, which specialized in this kind of microbusiness lending. My wife, Carrie, always donates to microbusinesses. We set up a joint team to plan a program for Benares, targeting the part of the district that seemed to be in most need of our help. It was the area where some families were still living in converted cattle sheds. Others lived in hastily constructed homes that didn't have proper plumbing, sewage, and other utilities. We struck up a friendship with Fatmir, an elected elder in that area, and this friendship proved to be the key to getting our microcredit program off the ground. A second important factor that made it possible to turn our plans into realities was a donation that was given to one of the members of the Balkan Sunflowers team. She lived in California and was a member of a Quaker community there. Her community raised $10,000 for the microcredit program. Due to internal matters within the Balkan Sunflowers, the donation was given to our Ananda Marga Universal Relief team to administer. We now had a fund and a trusted member of the community to help us find qualified people who could make use of loans. All we needed was some help with the mechanism of making the loans and monitoring the repayment. Our Margi, the former finance minister, was now a consultant to one of the important banks in Tirana, and we were able to work out an arrangement where the fund would be deposited in that bank and our loan recipients would make their payments directly to the bank. Once we were ready to begin, Fatmir spread the word in the community, and we held a meeting with the people who wanted to get loans. A number of people wanted to set up small shops selling groceries and supplies, since there were few such shops in the area. Another person wanted to buy a van to start a passenger transport service. Someone wanted some extra money to inject into a concrete block manufacturing facility. And a group of women wanted money to buy looms so that they could weave traditional Albanian carpets. We were ready to provide small loans to these people, and a member of the bank helped us to evaluate the loan applicants and set the limit for the amounts that could be borrowed based on their family income and expenses and the anticipated income that the business would generate. The program was successful beyond our expectations. We cycled the $10,000 through the system more than 4 times, giving initial loans and then giving further rounds of loans to new participants as well as to the original recipients who had repaid their loans. Of the total $40,000 and some 200 loans, everything was repaid except for $70, which was owed by a man who was unsuccessful in establishing a transport business with his van. I know, that's so cool, Carrie. I love how you do that. You can donate just a small amount of money to folks living in other parts of the world, and it can make a huge, huge, huge difference in their lives. And here is one of the microcredit recipients weaving traditional Albanian carpets. Once the microcredit project took off, I began looking for other ways to be of service in Benares. I heard that several people in the community wanted to learn English, so I offered to teach them. When I was in Japan and Taiwan, I had taught English from time to time in order to raise money. In Albania, I did it purely as a service activity. I had some grateful students who developed their English skills quite a bit in the next few years. The Albanian Sunrise School. A big part of the Ananda Marga mission is to open ideal schools. In India, Ananda Marga has started and continues to operate hundreds of schools ranging from nursery to college level. The educational method in these schools, known as neo-humanist education, see www.gurukul.edu for more information, combines progressive education methods with meditation. Starting schools outside of India proved to be more difficult, especially in developed countries, which have more stringent requirements for new schools. In spite of this, there are now Ananda Marga schools throughout the world. In Cairo sector, we were not very successful in setting up schools. However, in 1999, during a meeting with my fellow monks in Athens, I said that if I had a bit of financial backing, I could open a school. My colleagues agreed to help out with some modest financial support, and I went back to Albania to see how I could carry out my plan. I went to Bathore and discussed the school with the Fatmir, the village elder. He took me around the area and we identified buildings that might be suitable. We didn't have a big budget to work with, but eventually we found an unused room adjacent to the living area of a local family. It wasn't ideal, but we had to begin somewhere. Next, I needed a teacher. Fatmir again came to the rescue and introduced me to a woman who had a teaching credential and was looking for a job. I interviewed her and decided that she would be suitable for the undertaking. All that was needed now were some students. As it turned out, the local government school was overcrowded. It could only provide kindergarten education for a few of the thousands of residents of Bathore. I met with some of the parents and we selected 20 children for our first class. The parents would pay a few dollars a month to help defray the costs of paying the teacher and renting the room. However, the fees collected from the parents did not cover all of our expenses, which was why the support from the other monks was so important. On October 2, 2000, our school, which we called the Albanian Sunrise School, opened its doors to the first group of children, ages 4 through 6. I was happy with what we had accomplished, but after a few days I met the village elder and he said that we had a problem. I was expecting bad news, but it turned out that the problem was that there were more parents who wanted to enroll their children in our kindergarten. The solution was to build a new room, an extension to the building that we were renting as our first classroom. The expenses were manageable and we began construction work. Now I needed to find another teacher. The wife of one of my English students was already teaching in a local kindergarten and I asked her if she would like to join our project. She agreed to join us, and very soon we had 2 classes with a total of 40 children who were now off the streets and in a classroom. Our goal was to make this school special by using the Ananda Marga methods of neo-humanist education. During that period, I employed an Albanian assistant who began translating a thick book entitled The Circle of Love. The Circle of Love is a detailed teacher's manual organized in a way that reflects the Ananda Marga worldview. There are stories, exercises, and everything else a teacher needs to give lessons throughout the year. Once the translation was ready, our teachers began to use the Albanian edition of Circle of Love to shape their lessons. I also made it a point to bring my guitar and sing songs with the children on a regular basis. Through the songs, the children were able to begin learning English, and we finished our singing sessions with silent meditation. My guitar playing, singing, and mantra chanting proved to be a very valuable part of the school routine. After our first year, we were able to see good results from our efforts. The pupils who completed our course went on to first grade in the local public school, and we learned that they were performing very well. In fact, in subsequent years, some of the public school teachers came to our school to recruit children to enroll in their classes. And here is one of Dada Veda's weekly music sessions at the kindergarten. All right, I gotta go switch the laundry. I'll be right back. Maybe get a warm up on my coffee. Alexa, turn the volume up to 8. Alexa, turn your volume to 4. I'm back. Jasper, are you sleeping? Seems to be. Yeah, Alexa's doing a really good job. I always have her play meditation music. Isn't it lovely? It's pretty cool. You can just say, Alexa, play meditation music, and she'll do it. I mean, what'll they think of next? All right. Internet marketing, music, and songwriting. In 2002, my life took another turn in a seemingly surprising direction. I began writing songs, recording them with other musicians, and performing them in public. I say seemingly surprising because we yogis know that everything we do is a result of our samskaras, the unfulfilled momentum from the past. Nothing happens without a prior cause or background. This past momentum did not force me to become a performer, but when the circumstances lined up in the right way, I chose my path in a manner that satisfied an inner longing. How did this come about? Although our school program was successful in educating poor kids, it was not financially viable. The parents couldn't pay the fees that would have been needed to cover the salaries of the teachers and the rent on the school building. In the beginning, I got financial aid from some of the monks who were working with me in Cairo sector, but this help was only temporary. Since Albania is a poor country, and because I did not have enough contacts there to maintain a steady stream of donations, I began looking for another way to bridge the gap between the school's income and its expenses. My best solution was to set up a website where I could promote myself as an expert in internet marketing. By working on the website of New Renaissance magazine, www.ru.org, I had gained valuable experience in optimizing web pages so they would appear prominently when someone made a query in search engines. I put this expertise to use in this new business. Working from a small office in Albania, I was able to get clients, mostly from the USA, and this stream of income allowed me to both support myself and keep the school running. The idea of setting up a search engine optimization enterprise turned out to be a great idea. During the years I was in Albania, I spent a lot of time on the computer and on the internet working on this marketing business. However, Albania was a country with severe energy problems. Their electricity was supplied by hydroelectric installations in the north of the country, but they could not meet the demand of a growing economy. On top of this, droughts limited the amount of electricity that these hydroelectric stations could provide. The energy shortfalls meant that electricity did not run continuously. During the winter of 2001 and 2002, the power cuts were particularly severe, and for most of the day I could not work at my computer. Winter was the time of peak power demands because most of the apartments in Albania did not have central heating systems, and everyone used electric space heaters. It was then that I came up with the idea of helping support the kindergarten by recording a CD of spiritual songs and selling it within the Ananda Marga community. But as many independent musicians can tell you, recording music to use as a fundraiser is not so easy. In fact, from the standpoint of making money, it's a bad idea. At first I thought about recording songs written by other people. I used to sing and play a few pop songs, ones that fit my own feelings and outlook on the world. Songs like My Sweet Lord by George Harrison and the hippie anthem Get Together, a song by the Youngbloods made famous in 1969. I started practicing songs like this, but when the winter power cuts came and I had time on my hands with no running computer, I did something else. I took out a pen and paper and began to write my own songs. I had always admired people who could write songs, though I had never done it myself. For example, when I was in Washington, D.C. and managing the Sadvipra newspaper, I met a Margi musician named Shivam from Alabama. A social service trainee at the Washington Center, Shivam was an accomplished country and western musician who started to write spiritual songs. He put Ananda Marga themes to melodious country-style tunes, including one song that I still sing from time to time, Let's Not Wait Till Tomorrow. I used to think that if I could write even one song like Shivam's song, then I would be a happy man, so I started writing songs. I wanted them to be spiritual songs, but with lyrics that would not limit them to Ananda Marga listeners. In other words, crossover bhajans. They would be songs that some listeners would recognize as inspiring spiritual songs, and others would understand on whatever level they could. For example, I wrote the song I Can Never Be Apart From You with the following lines. You're the silence in the center of a storm. You're the fire that keeps my heart warm. You're watching everything that I do. I can never be apart from you. I didn't specify who the you is, so the song can be understood in various ways. I also wrote about social issues. In 1979, when I walked with Baba along the Rhone River in France, I was struck by Baba's remark that there are people in the world who are suffering so much that they are not able to even voice their problems, and that we should speak for them. Based on this remark, I wrote the song As the World Spins Around, which begins with these lines. There's some people in this world without any voice. There's some people in this world without any choice. And they toil day and night, stuck in their plight, as the world spins round, as the world spins around. Some of the songs included common pieces of yoga wisdom in an easy-to-understand format. In India's epic poem, the Ramayana, there is an interesting passage in which the hero Rama slays his adversary, Ravana. Rama was portrayed as an incarnation of God, and Ravana was supposed to be an extremely evil person. Yet when Ravana was wounded and was about to die, Rama, respecting his status as a senior person, requested that he give some advice from his life that would be valuable to future generations. Ravana replied that when he was a young man, he had some good ideas. He wanted to build a stairway to heaven so that people could easily reach the celestial realm. Ravana lamented that he delayed doing this good work, and now that he was dying, it would never be done. He then said that when he got older, he had a bad idea, namely the idea to kidnap Rama's wife, Sita. Thus, he put into practice immediately without thinking of the consequences, which resulted in the war described in the Ramayana that ultimately led to Ravana's death. Based on these events, Ravana gave his advice to Rama and to future generations. Whenever you have good things to do them immediately. And whenever you get an idea to do something that is not good, that will cause harm to you or others, then delay. And when the delay period expires, delay again. In my song, The Wise Ones Say, I tried to capture Ravana's advice in this chorus. If you've got something good, do it today. Gonna do something bad? Make a delay. This is what the wise ones say. This is what the wise ones say. I like it. I wrote the lyrics first and then sat down with my guitar to bring them to life as songs. While writing, I used a brainstorming technique. I suspended my critical judgment and didn't try to analyze whether the lyrics were good or bad. I just tried to compose a poem with an even meter so that I could put it to music. The most popular in this first series of songs turned out to be a song about vegetarianism. In 2002, I was visiting the Ananda Marga Children's Home in Romania, which had been opened in the aftermath of the revolution that deposed the communist dictator Nicolae Ceausescu in 1990. The world soon learned that this dictator tried to build up the Romanian population and army through various social policies that resulted in a large number of orphans who were kept in appalling conditions at large government-run orphanages. Several organizations, including Ananda Marga, tried to alleviate the situation by setting up smaller, more humane children's homes. Ananda Marga set up a group home near Bucharest, and it was a success. One of the features of this home was that the children were served a vegetarian diet. This was not a problem for anyone, but in the late 1990s, the mood in Romania began to change, and there was increasing opposition to groups like Ananda Marga that did not fit in the mainstream of the Christian religion. Because of this new anti-sect climate, the policies of the children's home came under attack. The government ordered that Ananda Marga serve meat in the children's home. I was there at the time when Ananda Marga was not only battling against this new dietary demand of the government, but also successfully challenged a government website that slandered Ananda Marga. I thought that we needed a vegetarian fight song and quickly wrote these lyrics. Animals are my friends and I treat them nice. I spare their lives eating veggies and rice. That's why I don't eat meat, I don't eat flesh. I'm trying to do my very best. Other verses of the song went on to give the health and ecological reasons why we are vegetarians. The music I composed was simple, since my music background was limited. I learned guitar back in 1966 so that I could play popular folk and rock tunes, and I later started playing simple spiritual songs and chants at Ananda Marga functions. The songs I began to write were the product of my upbringing, which consisted mostly of listening to American pop music of the 50s and 60s. This music was heavily influenced by the folk, country, and blues music that preceded rock and roll, and my songs reflected this. After completing a number of songs, I made a demonstration tape on an old cassette deck. I sent one copy of the cassette to my colleague, Dada Gunamukutananda, who was in charge of Ananda Marga's work in Malta. He organized a concert for me in Malta in December 2002 as a benefit concert for the Albanian Sunrise School. I was backed up by a complete electric rock band, and it was an exciting event. After the concert, Dada G came up to me and said, "Go for it." I continued with my quest, trying to do something more with the songs. The next step was to find someone who could help me to record the songs so that we could produce a CD. After making inquiries in Albania, I found a young musician who had recording software on his computer. He worked in a TV studio and was able to borrow very good microphones. He started recording my vocals and guitar accompaniment in the bedroom of his home in Tirana, after which he added percussion. One of his friends was an accomplished guitarist, and he added guitar solos and bass to the songs. Previously, this kind of recording could only be done in a studio, but by 2002, digital recording software was available to everyone. Anyone with a computer and a microphone could start recording multi-tracked songs and editing them directly at home. After about 6 months of once-a-week recording sessions, we had 13 songs ready to be put on CD. I gave the album the title Brighter Than the Sun, which was the title of the first song. We made 200 copies, and in the summer of 2003, I went to Germany and the US to take part in large Ananda Marga gatherings. I introduced my songs there and sold my CDs. By the time the summer tour was over, I had sold all 200 copies. I started the music project thinking about selling a few copies at Ananda Marga functions, but then I thought that maybe it could be a way to bring social and spiritual ideas to a wider public. My official monastic name, Acharya Veda Prajnananda Avaduda, presented a challenge. Not many people could pronounce it or understand it. Even I misspell it from time to time. So, for the sake of making my music more accessible, I used a shortened version, Dada Veda, on the CD and on the internet, opening up a website at www.dadaveda.com. Divine Moon Festival and Musical Revival. After the excitement of making the first CD and performing at the retreats in Germany and the US, my musical career entered a quiet stage. I got 1 or 2 emails from people who had bought the CD and really liked it, but beyond that there was only silence. I was discouraged. I thought that perhaps I should give it up and forget about the music. Then I heard that some Margies in Portland, England were organizing a spiritual musical festival, the Divine Moon Festival. I wanted to take part, though I was not sure if they would want me to perform. At this point, I got into a conversation with Jishnu, a young man whom I have known since his birth in France in 1978. He encouraged me to attend, so I contacted the organizer, and he put me on the bill. Just before the Divine Moon Festival, I attended the Ananda Marga retreat in Germany. There I met Brian, a Margie from England who is an accomplished fiddle player. He liked my music, and we practiced together and performed at the retreat. We teamed up again at the Divine Moon Festival, where we were also joined by a bass player, Rasa Vihari. With the addition of Brian's fiddle, the music really fit the mold of country and western music, or rather, as one of the listeners at Divine Moon said, country and eastern music. We played a few sets at the festival, and our last set was a lively one with an encouraging audience clapping and singing along. This set was videotaped, and several of the songs are still available on YouTube. After the good reception at the Divine Moon Festival, I became energized again and sought ways to continue writing, recording, and performing my songs. And here is Dada at the Divine Moon Festival in Portland, England, 2006. Syria, Jordan, Lebanon, and Egypt. Although I'd been in Cairo sector for a number of years, I had not seen several important Middle Eastern countries and was glad when the opportunities arose to visit these places. One surprisingly bubbling center of interest in yoga and meditation was Syria. Although the country was tightly ruled by a dynastic family dictatorship and is a predominantly Islamic country, some of our teachers connected with a community that was thirsty for our style of spirituality. The Druze people are a religious group living in Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, and Israel. They emerged in the 11th century as a faith distinct from their Islamic neighbors. They have a mystical bent of mind and share with Ananda Marga a belief that God is both transcendent and immanent in the universe around us. When our monks first visited Syria, they taught meditation to some members of this community, and soon more and more people joined them. By the time I visited Syria in 2005 and 2006, there were active Ananda Marga centers in predominantly Druze areas in the south of Syria and in the Damascus suburb of Jaramana. When I joined Ananda Marga in 1970, most of the meditators in the U.S. were in their 20s. We did not have many older or younger members. However, in Syria, I found whole families from grandparents to toddlers all practicing Ananda Marga yoga. It was amazing and truly inspiring. At this time, one of our monks was traveling all around the country dressed in his bright orange robes. This was done with the full knowledge of a regime that tracked the movement of everyone very strictly. For example, when I took a bus ride from Damascus to the city of Svida, everyone, foreigners and nationals, had to show their passports or identification documents. The government definitely knew we were there, but they let us operate freely. In 2005, we held a seminar in a prominent auditorium in the center of Damascus with several monks and nuns in full uniform. It was filmed and shown on the main state-run television station. Some of the Margis told us that the government let us work because their biggest fear was not yoga and meditation from India, but Islamic fundamentalism and extremism from their own region. Unfortunately, this period of grace did not last long. After a few years, our monks and nuns could not get their visas renewed, and the entire country descended into civil war. And here's a photo from the seminar in Damascus, 2005. But while it lasted, it was beautiful. Hospitality in Syrian homes was amazing, and we were treated to the wonderful cuisine that the country is known for. Lots of fresh salad, olives, cheeses, breads, and sweets more than satisfied us. We held retreats and also enjoyed excursions to scenic sites, such as a Roman amphitheater in the southern city of Bosra, as well as the famous Umayyad Mosque of Damascus. Jordan and Egypt. We did not have many activities in Syria's neighbor Jordan except for occasional seminars and yoga classes in Amman, but we held a retreat there in 2007. The retreat took place in a campsite near Wadi Rum, one of the chief tourist destinations in Jordan. Wadi Rum, the Valley of the Moon, is a valley in South Jordan 60 miles east of the port city of Aqaba. In ancient times, it was inhabited by the Nabateans, a trading people who left behind a magnificent city built right into a steep mountainside. In modern times, Wadi Rum was the home of T.E. Lawrence's military campaign against the Ottoman Turks in World War I, which was immortalized in the film Lawrence of Arabia. Taking advantage of time before and after the retreat, we visited some of the tourist attractions along with the Margis of Syria, Malta, Cyprus, Jordan, and Lebanon. We rode camels in the desert, slept at a Bedouin camp, saw the ruins of fortresses used by T.E. Lawrence, marveled at the architecture of the Nabatean city of Petra, floated in the Dead Sea, and stood at Mount Nebo on the very spot where Moses is said to have viewed the Holy Land before passing away. The natural beauty of the Jordanian deserts and mountains was astounding, and meditating in the desert was a unique experience. The retreat itself was beautiful. The coming together of people from so many different Middle Eastern countries gave me the hope that one day peace will come to this troubled part of the world. And here's a photo of Dada Veda in the Jordanian desert near Wadi Rum. And below it is Dada Gunaragananda, the author, Dada on the left, the author, and Dada Krishna Sivananda standing in front of T.E. Lawrence's fortress in Wadi Rum, Jordan. Although our sector was given the name Cairo Sector by Baba, we did not have a big presence in Egypt's capital. We owned a small apartment in a locality we called Chicken Street because on the ground floor of our building there was a large shop that kept and slaughtered poultry. One of our monks stationed in Cairo gave yoga classes in various studios around the city, but we did not have a large local following of meditators. At the end of 2005, we held our periodic meeting of monks and nuns in Cairo. It was my first visit to the African continent, and I came with eyes wide open. In addition to holding our meetings, we also visited the Great Pyramids of Giza, the Sphinx, which is right next to the pyramids, and the Egyptian Museum in downtown Cairo. Our host monk also took us to some of his yoga classes where we gave short talks and performed some songs. Our Dada in Egypt also organized a concert for me in an open-air theater next to the Nile River. Dada P did his best to publicize the concert, but only a handful of friends showed up for the event. I started performing, but due to the lighting, I could not really see who was in the audience. While I was singing, some people who worked at the theater sat down and listened. When I finished, they came up to me and said, "Can you sing some Cat Stevens songs?" Not surprising, since Cat Stevens converted to Islam, and I imagine he must have a good following in this part of the world. 1 or 2 visits to a country do not make me or anyone else an expert, but while I was in Egypt, 2 images struck my mind. At the time of prayer, the mosques in downtown Cairo filled to overflowing. People with prayer mats crowded the streets around the mosques, and everything around them stopped. A contrasting view of Egypt came at the huge Carrefour market just outside the city, where Dada P brought us for some shopping. In France, they call such markets hypermarkets or hypermarkets, and this place lived up to that name. The store stretched over thousands of square feet and was stocked with all the goods you would find in Europe or North America. Egyptians there were just as avid about their shopping as their compatriots on the prayer mats in downtown Cairo were about their religion. I could see that the struggle in Egypt today is in large part a conflict about reconciling old beliefs with the forces of modernity. And that is the end of chapter 8. We only have 1 chapter left in this amazing spiritual memoir by Dada Veda Prajanananda. Dada Veda for short. I wish I had time to finish it today, but I just don't. But I am still intrigued and can't wait to read the rest of it. We will definitely be finishing this next week, folks. What do you think? Anybody have any questions for Dada? Thank you, Dada. Thank you. So one thing we need to figure out, Pride Doodles, is are we going to do another book after this on Tuesdays? What do you think? I don't know. But just give it some thought. You can let me know on Discord, or you can let me know on my next stream, Friday, Free for All Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern, here on Twitch. Thank you, Julie. Any last words or questions, comments? Carrie, are you still waiting to get your eyebrows done, or are they done? You gonna make it home before 1:30 so we can hit the road? I hope. As Stream Elements has just pointed out, you can catch anything you may have missed of this amazing spiritual memoir on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/c/Kris Pride. There is a playlist called From Brooklyn to Benares and Back, and it's got all the readings so far, and it'll have today's too, probably in about an hour or so. You're welcome, December. Thanks for being here. All right. That's all she read. Sounds fun, Julie. Enjoy your Christmas card writing and delivering. All right. Y'all know where to find me. Peace out, Pride Doodles.